Welcome to Navigation Church. We are right in the middle of our family series, and if you're joining us online, we're absolutely thrilled that you're joining us this morning. If you're watching us live through the app or through the website, we're thrilled that you're a part of this community of faith. If you're watching this afterwards, the announcement and the story we're going to tell now is just as good as you're watching it as it was in person. And so we're thrilled that you're joining us this morning. We're in the middle of a family series. Last week we talked Mother's Day, mothers. My mom actually joined me for the sermon. Next week, my wife joins me for the sermon for the other side of the story. I know. I keep asking her, what are you planning on saying? She goes, I'll tell you live. And I'm going, no, not allowed to do that. So, and then after that, actually, Aaron, I think you're up after that on singleness. If you are single, if you're pursuing a spouse, here's the thing. It's not about finding the right person. It's about becoming the right person. So I can't wait for Aaron to share. And then Brent, what do you have on store?
Parents.
It's a parent. Okay, parenting with Aaron. Are you going to have your parents up here?
Possibly.
Possibly.
They don't know yet.
Do they know yet?
They don't know that yet.
Okay. So
See the deer in the headlights?
Yeah. Hi, Mom. Congratulations. And then I'm actually going to finish it up on Father's Day. Lessons that I've learned about my Heavenly Father after I became a father. And so I just can't wait to end on Father's Day. Men, make sure to show up. We always have a free gift. And I always push for steak. To just give out, as you leave, give you raw meat. And I don't know why this is a bad thing, so I just say we still push for the steak. We got a couple carnivores in here. I love hearing that. So family, the reason why we want to go ahead and take time to talk today as a family is because as a family, we have a big announcement to make, and the announcement is this, that we are officially under contract to sell this building, the building next door, and all 9 acres. But... So as a family, we have big days coming up. How many have ever moved before? Have you ever had packing days? We got packing days coming up. How many had to clean up the house before you left for the next homeowner? Okay, we probably have some cleaning days coming up. How many realize that when you move, life changes just a little bit? So as a family, we want to talk to you about this move. But the problem that we would face if we just say, hey guys, we're moving, I think you would miss the totality and the weight of what God's done for us already. So the best way, we've told you the end of the story. The end of the story is that August 31st, listen to this date, of 2018. Did you catch that? More than a year from now. We have a closing date scheduled to sell this building. But you go, why is it taking so long? We'll get there. But you just need to know God is moving us. Mm-hmm. But in order to do that, I want to start at the beginning of the story. Here's the beginning of the story. The beginning of the story is October 22nd, 2014. I had been feeling in my heart, been having conversations, and Brent's going to jump in immediately because we're walking a parallel road in October. Actually, go ahead and pull this slide down. We're going to wait till the end to show that one. October 22nd, I'm in Dallas, Texas. And there's been something kind of bubbling in my stomach, bubbling in my soul, bubbling in my spirit about this property. I'm going, God, I think we're supposed to move. I think we're supposed to go somewhere. But the problem with, if you're the only person having the idea, here's a lesson for everyone. You're either a forerunner or you're wrong. Those are your only two options, right? So if I'm the lone guy on a hill saying, unicorns are coming, I'm either the first guy to see them or they're not coming. So I started asking God, okay, God, I'm feeling this in my spirit. Who am I supposed to talk to? What am I supposed to say on this? So I was down in Dallas, Texas, and I don't know if you know what the word prophecy means or someone who's prophetic. Here's the best way to explain it. I believe God is talking all the time, but the question is, are we listening? And sometimes we think we heard God correctly, and God will say through someone else or to someone else, hey, reinforce. Say to them what I've been saying to them so they know it's me saying it to them. A friend of mine named Sam Brassfield, who's a minister to my life, pulled me aside and said this. Because I thought that's what the Lord said you were going to be doing, he asked me, have you moved yet? I go, no, I haven't moved yet. He goes, I asked you this because I thought that's what the Lord was saying to do. You've had it already in your mind about going to a new location. So I'm thinking I should maybe go to a new location. Sam goes, by the way, I think in your mind you've been thinking about a new location. Okay, you have my attention now. He said it's about location, location. It's about leading you to go out to the highway, not a byway, not some back road, off road, out of the way place, to the highway. It's about, now, in the name of Jesus, you go to the highway. Yes, I see a high visibility. I'm going before you because you've already seen the place that you want to go. And oddly enough, I've already seen that place. Now, does that mean we have a new place picked out? We're not here to talk about that today. We're here to talk about the sale of this. So I'm down in Texas hearing from God that, yeah, you should be thinking about moving. While back here in Collinsville, Pastor Brent's having a whole different conversation.
I'm having a whole different conversation because I was pastoring and leading another church. And that summer, meaning 2014, June, July, started feeling something in my spirit. We sit down and have a conversation over coffee, and he throws out an idea like he always does, an idea, a thought, and goes, hey, what if we did this together? What if we blended churches together? And so instantly, I pretty much at that point, yeah, this is pretty much a sure deal. Talked to my wife that evening, that night, sent a text to Pastor David saying I'm in. And from that point on, we started moving forward. And in all that, I went to Arizona. And traveling to Arizona had confirmation after confirmation of what I was supposed to do. Came back to Collinsville, met with our leadership, my leadership team from Faith Bible Chapel, met with that team, talked to them and said, guys, I feel like we're supposed to do this. So let's begin a 21-day prayer and fasting over this time. We're praying, we're fasting for our own church, seeking God. Following week, we come together. The team's like, no, we're just praying for Faith Bible Chapel. We're praying for the church. My wife, Teresa, speaks up and says, have you even started praying about what God's plan would be? Man, that's powerful. What is God's plan? Not what we want, but what God wants. The following week, we came together, and we agree. We're all in agreement. We're supposed to blend churches. That Christmas, we blended for the first time in here with like 370 people that Sunday, and it's history now. It's just moment after moment, you're seeing how God has aligned and been faithful, creating a space for people to come to know Jesus.
So first, I love the thought of, are you praying God's will or your will? If you guys want a prayer nugget for today, this is it. The other thing I heard is there's times where I throw out ideas before thinking them through. I don't know if that's true. I don't. That happens a lot. So here's what happened the next 2 years. The church is blended. We found amazing leaders, high-capacity leaders moving into different areas. The heart, the mission, we started moving out together. And I was thinking the best way to describe this, over the next 2 years, we found our battle rhythm. We didn't find our church routine, because here's what happens. The moment you fall into routine, you develop religion. But if you find your battle rhythm, you can find the right relationship with God. And in a family series, again, here's your thought for today as a family. Dads, do you have a battle rhythm when it comes to your family, or are they a checklist and a to-do list? Because if so, you'll just end up having a religious family. You have a non-relationship family. But if you go, no, my rhythm is I have dinner at home with my kids at night. Moms, I'm going to be at home at dinner with the kids at night. We're going to always have Sunday afternoon off together as family. Whatever that, find that rhythm for your life. And I would say as a church, we begin to find our rhythm. And one person that started joining in on that rhythm, of course, now is our generational pastor. Have I ever introduced Aaron Simonik to you? The man, the myth, the legend, the icon known as. Good luck.
Yeah.
High pedestal there.
So what we got to see here is in October of 2014, God initiated a process. He initiated a journey. You may find in your life that he initiates journeys, then he takes his time. And so, but it's because he knows there's different pieces that have to fall in at just the right time to make all this happen. And that's what you're going to see unfold today, because almost 2 years to the date, in October of 2016, we had our annual fall conference here at the church. And on the Sunday morning, we had Pastor Daryl Corbin, who's one of our apostolic covering. He helps oversee us, keep us in line. And when he was sharing from this platform, he's like, I've been hearing that you're at this place where you're hearing that God wants to move you, and he just wanted to validate that we are on the move. Because if you want to go back to an Old Testament reference, the Israelites followed a cloud. God used a cloud to follow them and take them into their place. And so when he uses that word, we're just following a cloud at this moment. Okay, God's put a word out there. He's put a promise. and we're just taking one step at a time in faith. And he says, because you know where you're going, now walk toward it in faith. Don't plateau, don't get stuck, just keep moving. Because where I see God is going to take you through an accelerated process, and he's got you to a moment where he wants to take you to an intersection. I just keep hearing the word intersection. And so that was the word he had. He says, so know you're on the move. You're a church on the move, because where you have to go has to facilitate what he's called us to. And so in that, we are on a church on the move. Where? I don't know. So we're stepping out in faith, but we know in 2014 he started a conversation. We said yes. He said another word in 2016. We said yes. If it's one thing we can always find, be found in the way of obedience, because it's opening, it's going to lead you in the guiding steps of your journey, just like Pastor Darrell set us on.
Yeah, I love it, the accelerated thing. So after that word came, we waited again. So I think he will accelerate when he decides to hit the gas. Until such time, you're just cruising along. So we're cruising along, and I had something drop into my spirit, 2 and 2,000, 2 and 2,000. I just kept, every time I prayed, I just had 2 and 2,000. So I finally went to my wife, and I said, honey, I need to tell you what I'm thinking. But it's 2 and can you partner with me in prayer in this? Can you tell me if you think what you're hearing when you go to prayer in this? And the more we talked, yeah, it felt right. So finally, and I want to say it was October 20th, 2016. But before that, I had brought it to Pastor Brent, and I said to him, I keep hearing this, 2 and 2,000. And Brent, I believe that within 2 years, we're going to move. Within 2 years, God's going to have us out of here, which, by the way, is we couldn't figure out how that could possibly happen. So we actually, on our apostolic phone call, we do it about once a quarter. And in that phone call, we say, guys, this is what we're really feeling. So think about this. October 20th, 2016, we heard that in 2 years, we're going to move. Our current closing date is at the end of August, 2018. Sounds almost like 2 years to me.
Right.
So you kind of go, man, God, to quote a good song we just sang, are you going to do it again? Like, are you going to speak? And but the question is, are we going to found faithful? And so what we ended up doing in that October, we ended up listing our property in order to be sold. And the property went through a couple different listing styles, but eventually it was just listed on the open market to see who might be interested in buying it.
So again, we took time at the beginning of January of this year. We took time to come in the auditorium, myself, Pastor David, Heather, I don't know if anybody else was there, but we took time to begin to pray and seek the Lord. And the Lord dropped something in my spirit to pray, and that was surplus. That was surplus. God was going to bring surplus to us in every area, from our kids to our church, to our children, to our youth, to our finances. And we just believed that, and we stood on that word surplus. Didn't know what it meant. Didn't really see how it was coming together until later as you looked at all of this adding up. But we knew surplus. So we went into the beginning of January, and we said, we're going to have baptism. We're going to do something a little different. We're going to do it in Sunday morning service. And some of you were present that Sunday morning service. But we had 3 people that were going to be baptized. 3. And one of them dropped out that Sunday morning. So we had 2. Those 2 know who they are, wherever they're at. We had 2. Which they were scared to death at the moment. You're going to be in front of a congregation. And I'm saying, no, we're going to have more people. We're going to have, somebody else is going to be baptized that morning, not just the husband and wife.
The water will be warm.
It'll be warm this time. Yeah, right? No? And so, no, it wasn't. So we went into that morning, baptism, great word. We started walking people through. Pastor David was up here leading us. And we baptized a few people, and then we got to the point where Pastor just said, I feel like there's somebody else. We just want to open this up to anybody that wants to be water baptized this morning. And that morning, we baptized 10 people when it was all said and done. That's 10 people that took their next step. Yeah. Somebody better get some praise going on this morning for 10 people being baptized. So we knew God was doing something different. And I think along every step, when we look back, we see how God was setting things up. He was strategic. He was planning. He had in the mind years ago when Pastor started leading the church, when navigation came into existence. When I was in Ecuador, I'm preaching for a minute. Ecuador, in the cloud, in a white building, 2nd story, praying. And God says, go plant a church in Collinsville. He knew that 2014 was going to come. And he knew the conversation we were going to have at Panera Bread, and there was coffee involved, so we know it was a heavenly conversation.
Amen.
That is not a part of our official doctrine here at the church. I know
I
it.
added
We're
it.
working on it. We're working on it.
But currently, I'm outvoted 2-1. Just so you know, that is going to slide in to the official doctrine
Somehow, some way.
somehow.
People always say Hebrews.
You know what's cool about that?
Hebrews, you know, so Scripture,
Oh,
It's proof.
Hebrews, it is proof. That God loves-
Mute that mic just real quick. No, you know what the cool thing about what you're saying is God was planning, but we weren't.
Absolutely.
And so we knew what we wanted to do, but on that Sunday morning, here's what you might not know. We were going into the cleaning closet to get clean cleaning rags for people to dry themselves because we didn't plan on that many people being baptized. So we're like, there's water all over the place, and it's because God was saying, no, I really want to do something. Do you want to go with me? And we go, God, we're out ahead of you. And he goes, no, I'm clearly out ahead of you at this point. And so it's just absolutely awesome where we hear from God, and all we can do is take our next step in that growing relationship with him. And then
Well, because one of the key word he shared was surplus. And, you know, the minute you hear a word, the minute somebody tells you a story, you put your interpretation on it, you put your spin on it. And I think God wanted to make very clear on that Sunday morning when we heard surplus for the first time what he meant. So much, in fact, that Pastor Daryl Corbin, the gentleman I told you about earlier, actually sent a text to you. It says, I know you're probably well into your Sunday morning service, so you probably got that after service. But I wanted to let you know you've been on my mind all night and all morning because he actually had a dream about us. And he had seen the church just out in a large field, and it was filled with hundreds of people, of many demographics being represented, young families, many children, and there was just an atmosphere of excitement. We weren't in a building, we were in a field, and there was just such a party-like atmosphere of celebration going on. And then there was worship going on, there was community happening, there was the word being shared, and it was in such a way that we knew it was going to be something way bigger than maybe we thought it was. And so I just love when we start to run, okay, now this is what it looks like. This is the bride I want to put in your mouth. This is what surplus is going to look like. So we're dreaming big. We're going to have vision, but we're going to have big vision, and we want you to be a part of that as well.
it's interesting because the big vision came because we needed to exercise that faith muscle. So about a year before this last March, we were going to be doing a spiritual campaign, and here's what a spiritual campaign is at the church. For 40 days, all of us walk the same walk, read the same thing, listen to the same thing, so we can specifically work a spiritual muscle. And I thought we were going to do something called Transformed. But then I picked up Daring Faith. And within the first day of doing this journey, I went, nope, this is what we're supposed to do. So a year ahead of time, God shifted our plans to do Daring Faith. So far, can I ask you this? This sounds so spiritual and perfect and easy, right? Okay, so here's the reality of it. Now the building's listed. We're about to start a campaign called Daring Faith. And about 2 weeks, so let me give you the date just so you know, February of 2017, before our February 26th kickoff, so the first and second week of February, we received a couple offers for the building that we didn't bring or didn't announce or anything because they were the first offers. The first offer was $300,000, more than about 70% of what the asking price was, off. Yeah. The next one was $330,000. So here's what we said. Oh no, we have a lemon, there's no way we can sell this. So it was, should we just start parceling? If someone wants to buy part of the field, just sell part of the field. If someone just wants the church, sell the church. And on one of the phone calls, our apostolic phone call that helps oversee us, we said, we're thinking about dumping the church for $330,000 and we can just move into the school building till we figure out a way to sell that. And one of the guys goes, do not do that. There's no way your church will want to meet in that cafeteria for a long period of time. And we're going, but what do we do? What do we do? And then somewhere along the line, someone goes, hey, we're about to start a spiritual faith campaign called Daring Faith. Maybe we should wait to make a decision till Daring Faith starts. And in all my faith, I'm like, well, fine, it's better than whatever option we have now. Has anyone been to that place before? We might as well wait to see what God's going to do because all of our current plans are really, really bad. So we decided, before Daring Faith started, it was, how do we just dump this place? And then we decided to wait and do Daring Faith. And so, you know what? I think I took part of what you were supposed to say there. But you were a part of the wrestling that was taking place, Beck.
Absolutely. No, we were wrestling through, and the pastors are supposed to have faith, right? We're supposed to have it together. We're just know that we know that we know and have this incredible faith. Well, we were wrestling with that. We had struggles internally, and how can we believe God for something bigger when we know the reality of everything? We know the reality of what it looks like and the difficulty and the struggles. But we decided to take the step of faith and step into the Daring Faith campaign. And Pastor began to direct us with three questions to ask every week. You know, obstacles. What obstacles are in your way? What obstacles do you need to overcome? What opportunities may you be looking for, stepping into? Opportunity to share the gospel, opportunity that God for a job, whatever that may be, to the openings that God's going to give us. So it was during that sermon, Pastor David said this. I want to get it. When we were wrestling with this, he began to look around. Everything inside him wanted to say, we have the building up for sale. We found out about a couple of good pieces of land that we could build on. But we don't think it would be smart to go buy the land when we still owe here. We're not debt free. We still owe on this property. So part of him said this. Part of me wants to stand up here and say this. By the time that Daring Faith is over, I'm going to have a deed in my hand, either for property that someone bought us or the deed to this property so that we have the chance to do something different. But he said, but here's why I'm not ready to say that. I don't feel that I know that I know.
So I left here, and a buddy of mine was over in St. Louis. He's a traveling minister. His name's Eddie James. He's a musician. And he was over in St. Louis, and we've been texting back and forth, trying to connect. So I just told him, hey, I'll come over to your church service, or I'll come over where you're doing service, and maybe we could grab lunch, or at least say hi to each other. So I'm standing in front of the stage, and a guy looks at me, and he goes, hey, who are you? And I said, my name's David. And he goes, what do you do for a living? I'm a pastor. And then this is, here's inside pastor talk. He goes, full-time or part-time? And that's his way of going, are you really a pastor, or did someone like give you a piece of paper a few years ago? I go, no, full-time Navigation Church, the most incredible group of people to ever meet on a Sunday morning. You're welcome. And so, and he goes, you have, thanks for coming. They're expensive. I'm not going to drop it. So I'll drop that one. It's driving me nuts. So he goes, do you have contractors in your church? And just so you know, all of our contractors, I love you enough, I went into work mode for you. I'm like, yeah, we got contractors. What do you need? You need remodeling? We can do remodeling. You need a neighborhood built? We can do neighborhood. We can do house. We have commercial contractors. What are you looking for? Because I thought he was needing a good contractor, and I was ready to pitch you for him. Why? Because this is the greatest. The greatest. Thank you. You can tell the 6 contractors that just all yelled right there. He goes, well, you better get them together because God's about to give you property.
Come on.
And he just started speaking. He said, God's about to do something. There's a generation that needs to come to the Lord, but they don't have a place to go anywhere yet. So God's going to provide a place for them to go to you and through you. You better be ready. I'm just sitting there with my eyes open. Back in my brain the whole time I'm going, hit record on your phone. And the other side of me was going, you're going to remember every word of this. And so we came back the next Sunday for Daring Faith, and we stood up here and we said, guess what? By the end of this, we're going to hold the deed in our hand. And so here's what ended up happening. I want to go ahead and go to our first slide here. So Tuesday, October 22nd, 2014, was the day that we received a prophetic word saying that we're going to move. February 26, 2017, we started the Daring Faith campaign. That's 848 days of God moving quickly. That's 848 days of us going, what are we going to do? How are we going to dump this? How can we get out of here? God, don't you love us? Where are you, Jesus? Powerful prayers. Impressive prayers. 848 days. Sunday, February 26, 2017, we started Daring Faith. March 23rd, 2017, 26 days later, we received a letter of intent for the purchase of this property. Halfway through Daring Faith, we had a piece of paper in our hand. Ultimately to the group that is interested in buying this. Because God said to us, in my timing, I'm going to do exactly what I'm going to do. So as much as we wanted to stand up here 26 days in and go, look what we have in our hand, the businessman that was mentoring, coaching, doing this with us going, listen, you can't do this in the middle of negotiations. We have to stand from a place of strength, and if they find out you're desperate to sell this place, that's not a good sign. But the amazing thing is 848 days we were asking God, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? And God said, I'm just waiting for my time to do what it is I'm going to do.
That's right.
So guess what? Daring faith. God sold the property during that time period. Come on, put your hands together. I know you want to.
did.
And even with this letter of intent, and you're like, oh, faith is being stirred, we're looking for this. We got that letter of intent on a Monday. Wednesday, we had already been planning to go as a staff and leadership team and go and pray over some areas of land that we thought we would be interested in. And just so happens that same day, the group wanted to come and see the property. And their intent was just to buy this building, just the school and the property in the back. And so they were going. I was like, okay, we're going to do this. We shifted our staff meeting around. We shifted our meeting times around and said, well, we're going to see what this does. So they walked around the property, and then they started showing interest in all of it. Where they thought they just wanted part of it, once they got here, there's like, I think there's potential for all of it. And so faith keeps going as God just begins to move some things in place. And so even following that time, we went as a staff and a leadership team to just these areas of property. And don't you think it's good to site out where you think God may be calling you and pray about some things? So we did that, and we went to one property and like, no, this is not it. Like almost immediately. There was even a foul odor. There's like, yeah, this we know what foul odors are.
We're done with the foul odors, you hear me?
And so we went to our second place, and it was almost instantaneous that we got out of the car. One person said their feet got excited, and we just all started walking this property in all these different directions and just making private declarations and personal prayers. And then we got together as a group, and it just seemed like God was validating where we were going. But we're not there yet, but God's faithful. Because even we can see where we thought he was going to sell part of it, now he's giving us all of it. Where we think we're going to do it one way.
And go ahead and just hint at. So the question is, how do you engage in that conversation? If you have a piece of property, so we're going, okay, we have a spot we think we want to build on, but how do we engage in the conversation? So back here behind closed doors, we're going, God, how does the door open to see if that land's available?
Yeah, so we get excited and like, oh yeah, God's going to do this. Like, how do we have this conversation? How do we knock on this door? Well, maybe sometimes he comes knocking to us. Because about 10 days later, the actual owner of the property called me. Walking in the gym, left a voicemail because I didn't recognize the number. Somehow I lost it. But then I went and listened to the voicemail. I was like, no, this is... And I sent it to you. I said, listen to this. What do you think I should do with this? And we decided just to call him back. And in calling him back, we just realized, like, hey, I know you might be interested in this property. I want to get together and see if we can't work out a deal to get that in your hands. And so that's just the early stages of conversation that we want to have on a door that we wanted to knock on, but God was already opening before us. And so we're just continuing to knock. We're continuing to open through these doors, continuing to say yes in obedience to whatever he's called us to. And
so I'm going to make this as clear as I possibly can. And it's on camera, so you're going to be able to record. We have nothing to announce of where we're going yet. If you come up and go, so where's the property at? We'll say, we'll let you know if it ever comes about. At this point, there's just nothing to talk about there then. Although, when we're ready to announce something then, we will say, don't miss this service. We have something big to announce. I am not saying come next week because we have something big enough. We have nothing to announce right here at this moment in this time. Does anybody have any questions regarding that level of clarity? Because I can't tell you how many times I heard, I thought you were announcing something the next Sunday about the building. I never said it. So right here, right now, we have nothing to currently announce there, but I do want to say this. We are announcing we need you to pray with us. Because number one, where are we going to go? Number two, why is it that we're not closing till August 31st of 2018? Well, first of all, it's going to take this long for this. It's a real estate holding company out of Chicago to actually purchase the buildings. Why? Because there's 180 days of due diligence. What does that mean if you don't know what that means? It means they bought the car, but they have 180 days to kick the tires. That's a long time to be able to come down here. But they need to know what it is they're buying. So there's 180 days of due diligence. And part of the discussion that we had is, should we wait till after the 180 days to announce the sales? Because after that 180 days, this is when this contract really becomes locked down. But I realized, no, this is a journey the family's taking. I don't want 3 people to be praying for the sale of this building. I need all of us. Will you commit to be in prayer for the next 180 days plus the next couple years coming up, that God does what he's going to do? Because listen, I wouldn't be up here announcing it except when you look at what he prophesied to us, what the timeline is laying down, you go, God, I think you're in the middle of doing this, because we were sitting here going, how can we possibly sell this place, while there's a company in Chicago going, how can we find places like this? Think about this. There's a company that actually looks for buildings exactly like what we have. So they all of a sudden come down and go, listen, we're not going to try to negotiate with you on price, so we will give you your full asking price. Did everybody hear that? We will give you full asking price, because they need to buy time. So you can't really come in and go, we'll give you $330,000, but you have to be out in a year and a half. No. If you want a year and a half, you buy that time. That's how real estate works. So they bought time from us. So we have time for the next 180 days. Let's say this. We're going to be doing our due diligence. Where are we going? Where are we going to end up? What type of building would we like to see? I will tell you now, you got to hear this. The new building that we have is going to have a tank that people can walk in and get baptized and walk out. Because you know why? Why not? Why not? Why be a church of 200 when you can be a church of 2,000? Right. Why baptize 30-something people in a year when you can baptize 1,000 people in a year? I have a question. If we think big, will God do big, or do we have to wait for God to do big for us to think big? Well, I just think yes to that. Why don't we let God do big while we think big? And when we think we're thinking big, he's going to come and go, no, you should try this. And we're going to go, that's too big. And he goes, now it's me. And so guess what? We're going to be a church on the move. Family, we need you to move with us. We need you to partner with us. I'm here to tell you on this day, and I didn't run this by these guys, but you got to hear it. The moment we move, we're going to double in size. Amen. No matter where we're at, amen, we're going to double in size. We're going to be available for people. We're going to be at multiple services. Actually, we're going to be at multiple services before we move. Why? Because we're going to be practiced up for the new place that we're going to. Amen. We're going to be available to more people more often. We're going to have the online. Okay, now you guys are going to have to jump in because I'm going to keep talking here. I have a question. Why not have a state-of-the-art building? And not to be the biggest, latest bonfire. Here's what needs to happen. We need to touch God spiritually, and after we touch God spiritually, it's going to creatively release something. So why have one LCD screen when we can have the back of the entire stage be an LED screen? So when we say, I want to talk to you about Jerusalem, we take you to Jerusalem. When we talk about God standing on a rooftop, Deidre, you can finally sing on top of a rooftop, right? You can finally shout it from the rooftop. When we're talking about the storms of life, how many want to know standing on a storm would be pretty cool? And you go, oh, well, you just want to show off. And you want no. What we want to do is we want to give the people. We want to give visitors. We want to give guests. We want to give those who don't know Jesus the optimal opportunity to find Christ.
Because the obedience thing that we're finding ourselves in is God's put a word out there that there's a generation that needs what we haven't built yet. Yeah. And so we're not going to build what's already out there, because if it's already out there, they'd be going there. Yeah. So we have to begin to dream. And working with our students, I was like, they need that. They need to engage. Yeah. They need to. I'm not going to be able to compete doing a prop lesson when they want to see some whole different digital experience that the world produces.
So we're praying for people who love to do social media to be a part of this church. We're praying for people who love to edit videos. There are so many video ideas that we have to start creating in order to be able to put that out there. But then the other thing, we want writers. We want writers to be able to do nothing but put on script what it is that's in my heart, their heart, in order to be able to produce new content the other 6 days. Not just a Sunday morning show, to be constantly be able to produce this. And here's why we have the faith to do this. Because statistically speaking, God is doing something here that is blowing away national averages. And we don't know if you're aware of this. Absolutely. So can we tell you some of the things that are happening here? And by the way, not like we feel like God's doing something. Goosebumps are great. Right. I love goosebumps. Yeah. I love when an intercessor goes, my feet got excited. If you've never been on a prayer walk with an intercessor, you got to go, because they say things like that. Right. You don't know what they mean, but you go, I believe you somehow. Your feet are excited. So here, can we just, I know you know them better than I do, so I'll let you guys kind of run with this. Statistically speaking, you guys, Navigation Church, are a part of a movement of God on the earth right now.
And I'll tell you, this is how it works. We've had this year 37 to date baptisms in this church. 37. You say, is that a lot? I'll tell you how that works. Yeah, that's a little soft clap, but I could tell you how this works. So the national average for a church our size is 14 to 18 people a year that get baptized. We're halfway through, not even halfway through, and we have 37 baptisms. 37 people that have dedicated and acknowledged, affirmed, and declared that Jesus Christ is their Lord. And that's what we're about. Come on, Aaron, give us another one.
Oh, so when it comes to giving, you are a giving church. Because if we could put this number up, the average for a church is $1,000 per person. So, I mean, at a church of 200, you're at $200,000 budget you're looking at. You are a giving church. You are a faithful church, even so much so that we are more than double what the national average for giving churches is. And why we want to move towards a new building, why we want to focus on these moves is because we want to always make our mission bigger than our maintenance. That makes sense to you? I can't tell you, $847 for a bank of lights to be fixed. $847 invested in the lives of students and kids goes a totally different direction.
Students and kids, guess what he's over? Seniors and adults, men and women, we love you too. Always going to those kids.
Students.
Padding that budget. Did you guys hear that? You give double what the national average is for a church our size. Double plus. That is absolutely amazing. And I don't ever remember a Sunday where we're up here going, guys, you have to give this week. You have to give this week. You have to, please, that's not what here's why. Because we believe we're so on mission, God will give us the provision for the vision that he's given us. I think I'm getting a tattoo this afternoon, provision and vision.
Praise God.
I see it. It's right next to my thug life across my back. I can't wait.
But how good that is we were going in at the beginning of the year developing a church app and a new finance group and connecting with some of those things. And every time I talked to them, they would tell me the average. And where we were at, they were totally impressed and surprised every time that they saw that number, saw our budget number, just our budget number, that they were going, you are above and beyond what the average church typically does. And that goes on you as a generous, wanting to see the gospel advance, the love of Christ advance, that we can get outside the four walls of the building and do things like the Easter event. Yes. We can impact some teenagers this come into the summer. I won't acknowledge. I won't tell you what it is. I'm telling you it's going to be big. It's going to be an incredible time for our students. So there's another plug for your students.
Thank you. I didn't have to pay for that one.
Man.
Who wants to do salvations? I'll do it. I'm right here. Salvations. We're averaging 2 salvations a weekend. Now you go, why does that matter? Okay, the amount of salvations that we've had this year, if you look at the amount of guests that we have, one way to say it is half of the people that visit us every week end up coming to the Lord.
Yeah.
If you have someone who doesn't know Jesus, this is a really good race to bring them.
That's right.
50% of the time they come face to face with a Savior. And by the way, this isn't some sales thing. This isn't a statistic thing. It's because we boldly stand up here and say there was a time when mankind was separated from God. But God loved you so much, he came into humanity in order to die for you to live with him. Yeah. And we boldly proclaim that every weekend. And guess what? People want to hear it. And people respond to the gospel every single weekend.
Jesus.
Every weekend.
Another just stat to throw out to you is our NAV groups. We make a big deal about community, about family, about groups here at Navigation Church. And we believe that that's just the pathway for you to connect and to be discipled and grow in the Lord and engage in the mission that God has for us at Navigation Church. And the great thing is that half of the church participates in NAV groups. Okay,
50% of
half of the church participates in NAV groups. Half of the church is growing in a community and discipleship, building relationship that realize you can't do it alone. You can't do it just standing up here one morning preaching to a group of people. That's right. That's great. That's part of it. Daily. Be involved in community, though. That's where life and that's where we do life together is at.
You know what's cool? It's actually, there's a church full of people here that want to tell people about Jesus. We've got a good friend that's a partner here at the church by the name of Roy Jones. Roy was power washing. By the way, if you're on ladders and you're a part of this church, please be careful. Just not going. Think step stools at this point.
Here,
be careful on your ladder, please. So
here,
he was power washing. He fell, broke his foot in 2 places. And he's at a nursing home right now just because physically he's unable to move around. And he asked if I could come see him. And, of course, I said, no, I'm a part of a mega church. I don't have time. No, I'm kidding. The next morning, I'm there to see Roy. We're here to pastor people. We're here to pastor a community and disciple individuals. So I went to see Roy, and I walked in. And you want to know something interesting? Roy never told me about his foot. I walked in the door. He goes, oh, man, let me tell you about. And he started talking about all the people he's been witnessing to. And he goes, because of my injury, I've been able to tell God to 4 different people. And I went, no, you're supposed to be injured. You're supposed to be here. You're supposed to say, why, God? You're supposed to question the existence of Jesus and all things eternal because something bad happened to you. And he goes, no. And by the way, I know he's not the only one here that looks for openings in their life in order to share the gospel of Jesus Christ. So I want to talk family for for 2 minutes. Why is this important for us to know as family? But before I do that, the same way I end any prayer meeting or staff meeting, final thoughts, final thoughts?
We're on the go, and we're growing, and God's doing something, and you get to be a part of it. I get to be a part of it.
Amen. So family, we're going to be going through growing pains. One of our core values is we believe in growth. You know why? Healthy things grow.
Amen.
We are a healthy church. Amen. Financially, we're a healthy church. Salvations, we're a healthy church. Baptisms, we're more than healthy as a church. Not satisfied, but we're a healthy church. Healthy things grow. Family, we're going to be going through growing pains. There's many of you that are in places where you've been here for a long time receiving. It's time for you to become a giver. And I'm not talking financially. I'm talking about through our serve groups, our NAV groups, interest groups, and gen groups. It's time for you to start pouring out because there is a generation coming to the Lord that doesn't know anything about him. And if you know John 3:16, you are a theologian in their eyes. That's right. It's time for you to share. It is time for you to look for the openings in your life. Any person that you come across that you think you should invite them to church or invite them to God, I believe that every person connected with Navigation Church in the year 2017 will have an opening to share your testimony, and that prayer has never stopped. I think there's opportunities. Guess what? There's opportunities that we have to move towards. Opportunities don't mean it's easy. I have no idea what it means to move a church this size anywhere. I don't know what that means. I don't know to remodel the place or build brand new. Never done it before. This opportunity scares me to death. I'm sorry. Was I supposed to be more faith-filled than that? I don't know what I don't know yet, and I will only know it when I realize I didn't know that. So guess what? But there's an opportunity I have to move towards. I believe that everyone in here, our daring faith opportunities have not ended because the campaign ended. That's right. You still have opportunities. Yes. And the final thing I want to tell you is, guess what? There's a 100-plus-year-old building that has mine subsidence, falling bricks, asbestos, crack, not in here, not anywhere your kids are. Don't worry, we're good there. The attorneys in here just went, excuse me. No. But how do we get rid of it? How do we sell it? How do we overcome this obstacle? If God did it once, he'll do it again. If you're sitting in here this morning and you're going, I have an obstacle in my life I haven't been able to overcome, I pray that today's testimony testifies to you if he did it once, he can do it again. Absolutely. If he can do it for us, he can do it for you. If he can do it for the church, he can do it for the church partners. Guess what? Because we are the church. That's right. It's not the building. It's not these bricks. This is where we meet. If this was gone tomorrow, there's a field that we could meet in and still feel the presence of God and release the gospel of Jesus Christ in the world around us. If you're here today and you have an obstacle that you've been trying to overcome, I pray that you feel so envisioned, so faith-filled that you can overcome those obstacles.